The USS Harry Truman returns home after failing against the Houthis in the Red Sea. The aircraft carrier comes back not only with the burden of 3 lost fighter jets, but also with the shame of having been defeated by a Yemeni resistance long considered minor and underestimated from the beginning. A US official told Business Insider that the Harry Truman sailed from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean and will soon return to its home port in Norfolk, Virginia, humiliated from every angle. The Truman, which carried out 670 strikes and faced 160 drones and missiles, has been forced to retreat. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to hear might change the way you see global power. We're going to break down everything you need to understand what's really happening and help you stay one step ahead. This is News for Dummies, where we explain everything to boost your critical understanding of current events. It's a bombshell. The Harry Truman is already back home defeated by the Houthis. The USS Harry Truman leaves the Red Sea and Mediterranean theater with the heavy weight of having lost 3 fighter jets amid a wave of Houthi attacks backed by Iran. The scene is almost cinematic. The once feared and respected vessel now returns to port with its scars exposed and humiliation echoing like a thunderclap through the halls of the Pentagon and the White House. A United States defense official confirmed it to Business Insider. The Truman left the Red Sea, moved into the Mediterranean, and is now heading back to its home port in Norfolk, Virginia. The deployment began with great ambition, aiming to show the world that American naval supremacy was unmatched. After all, aircraft carriers had been crucial during World War II, defining battles, changing the course of history. After that war ended, both the British Royal Navy and the United States Navy accelerated technological development, launching aircraft that until then had only dreamed of operating from a deck in the middle of the ocean. The Sea Vampire, that legendary British jet, became a symbol of the evolutionary leap in naval aviation. The first jet to land and take off from an aircraft carrier in 1945, expanding the horizons of speed and combat capabilities for naval forces. But now, 80 years after that milestone, the reality surrounding the USS Harry Truman is far less glorious. The ship that once stood as a symbol of invulnerability has been humbled by an enemy that Trump and his administration underestimated from day one. The deployment was designed to intimidate, to deter the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen from launching attacks, and to protect the Red Sea's critical shipping lanes. Instead, the result was the opposite. The US Expeditionary Force had to endure unexpected blows, tangible losses, and most of all, the shame of watching the Houthis achieve the unthinkable against the most expensive and technologically advanced war machine on Earth. The return of the Truman is the return of a shadow, confirmation that asymmetric threats can bring any giant to its knees. Official reports state it plainly: 3 fighter jets lost and a string of setbacks that add to the Trump administration's series of failures in the region. In the words of Captain Christopher Claude H.L., commander of the aircraft carrier, they aim to make a mark on military history. Through his social media accounts, he bragged about the largest air assault ever launched from an aircraft carrier, 670 total strikes and 160 enemy drones and missiles intercepted during 5 months of operations in the Red Sea. In this case, the official narrative tries to frame the defeat through numbers, or speaking of intensity and quantity of attacks. Admiral James Kill, acting chief of naval operations, made it clear in a recent lecture series on military strategy and leadership, the USS Harry Truman and its strike group launched the largest air assault in world history from an aircraft carrier during recent operations near Somalia, citing the Stars and Stripes. The US military newspaper, however, the grandeur of the figures cannot mask the bitterness of the final outcome. The Pentagon repeatedly extended the Truman's deployment, hoping the campaign against the Houthis would restore the image of invincibility that the Trump administration so badly needed. Reality, however, told a different story. The US Naval Institute detailed how the Truman departed in late September, first participating in NATO exercises in the North Sea before heading to the Eastern Mediterranean. The real goal from the beginning was to flex muscles before the Houthi insurgency and its Iranian backers. However, the Pentagon's decision to extend the deployment turned an intimidation operation into a long string of misadventures. The Truman Strike Group began direct operations in the Middle East on December 14th, right after the USS Abraham Lincoln left the area. The mission was clear: stop the Houthi threat, restore the safety of international navigation, and send a clear message to Tehran and its allies. But as the days passed and the clashes intensified, the situation began to deteriorate. The Houthis, far from being intimidated, doubled down on their attacks, using innovative tactics and weapon systems that challenged the supposed technological superiority of the United States. Captain Hill and his men, though insistent on their response capabilities, soon found themselves overwhelmed by the unpredictability and ferocity of enemy attacks. What does the Truman's retreat tell us about the future of warfare and the vulnerability of even the most advanced military forces? Give us your opinion in the comment box below. The loss of 3 fighter jets wasn't just a statistic. It was proof that even air superiority couldn't guarantee victory. The Houthis, backed logistically and technologically by Iran, managed to bypass US air defenses, proving that modern warfare is no longer just about numbers or massive budgets, but about cleverness, resilience, and adaptability. The Houthis aren't China, but they represent a real threat and are targeting our ships. Acknowledging that, not minimizing it, and being prepared, that's now our top priority, said Admiral Kelv, before the Council on Foreign Relations, signaling a shift in discourse that, however, arrived too late for the Harry Truman, and especially for Trump's image. The administration's usual rhetoric, promising quick, decisive victories, collided head-on with the reality on the ground. The Houthis didn't just resist, they humiliated the US Expeditionary Force before the eyes of the world. The humiliation is even deeper when you analyze the historical context. Since the end of World War II, the US Navy had grown used to seeing its aircraft carriers as impregnable fortresses, able to project force and deter any adversary. The Sea Vampire landing on the HMS Ocean in 1945 was a milestone, but the Harry Truman returning to port after losing jets to Yemeni militias marks the end of an era. It's the beginning of a time when aircraft carriers are no longer immune and no longer guarantee victory. And so the Truman returns home, not as a champion, but as a wounded giant. The political and military cost for Trump is undeniable. What was sold as a decisive offensive has turned into a forced withdrawal, a loss of high-value military assets, and above all, a symbolic defeat that fuels the narrative of his adversaries. In short, Truman's legacy goes beyond a failed deployment. It's the chronicle of a fading era and a war doctrine that is no longer effective against the creativity and resilience of asymmetric adversaries. The return of the USS Harry Truman to Norfolk, Virginia, marked not just the end of a naval deployment, but a symbolic defeat for US military dominance in asymmetric warfare. Once a powerful emblem of American naval supremacy, the Truman was humbled by the Houthi forces, a group long underestimated by US administrations. This failure echoes the historical shift from traditional large-scale naval power projection, as epitomized by World War II aircraft carriers like the Sea Vampire, to a new era where innovative tactics and adaptability of smaller, technologically supported insurgencies can counterbalance massive military budgets and firepower. The Houthis, backed by Iran, emerged as the clear beneficiaries of this conflict, gaining confidence and regional influence by successfully challenging a global superpower. Meanwhile, the United States and former President Trump's administration suffered damage to their credibility and strategic posture in the Middle East, facing criticism over intelligence and tactical miscalculations. The consequences extend beyond the battlefield. This event challenges the future role of aircraft carriers, raises questions about US naval doctrine, and highlights the rising potency of asymmetric warfare in modern conflicts. As the Truman's defeat reverberates, all parties must reconsider how power is projected and contested in the 21st century. Now it's your turn. If you found this analysis insightful, leave a comment with your thoughts on the Houthis' capabilities and what this defeat means for US military strategy. Do you think aircraft carriers still hold their historic relevance? Subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated as we follow the evolving power dynamics in the Red Sea and beyond. And if you want to understand more about the history of naval aviation and how asymmetric warfare is reshaping global conflicts, click the video on screen next.